In his last morning as president, Joe Biden announced, "I believe in the rule of law, but there are exceptional circumstances which I cannot in good conscience do nothing." So Biden detonated the rule of law by pardoning his family, friends, and anyone else who did his dirty work over the last 4 years. Biden surprised people early on Monday morning by announcing a pardon for some members of Congress, a former general, and for COVID czar Anthony Fauci. Fauci was widely accused of giving false testimony on Capitol Hill. So maybe Biden would give Fauci a get out of congressional lies free pass. That's the type of pardon that some other people have gotten when they made false testimony in Capitol Hill. Fauci was the most pompous bureaucrat in D.C. He was criticized by Senator Ted Cruz in 2021. Fauci responded that his critics are really criticizing science because I represent science. That's dangerous. So we were all supposed to fall down to our knees and worship him every time Fauci opened his mouth, or what? So the Biden White House put out a press release announcing those pardons of Fauci and others, but there were no details on the specifics. Biden had pardoned his entire family for crimes committed in the prior decade. In literally almost the last minute of his presidency, Biden issued pardons for his brother James and his wife, his brother Frank Biden, his sister Valerie Biden Owens, and her husband. Biden declared that his relatives have been, quote, subjected to unrelenting attacks and threats motivated solely by a desire to hurt me. The worst kind of partisan attacks. Solely? The US Treasury Department has received at least 150 suspicious activity reports on Biden's kinfolk's dubious dealings and large money transfers from foreign sources. Maybe Uncle Joe could explain why the term Biden crime family is redundant. Flashback to October 2020, Trump was attacking Biden for family corruption, and Biden falsely claimed in the last debate that his family never did any business with China. There was that laptop which the New York Post had exposed. There was all sorts of dirt and kickbacks on that. Biden said it was all bogus Russian disinformation. Obviously, if Biden had to give all those pardons to his family members, it was like in the final minutes of his term, Biden confessed that his entire presidency had been a fraud. At least Joe Biden didn't issue pardons to everyone who Hunter Biden sold drugs to or bought sex from. And then I finally got the official statement on the Fauci pardon. I was stunned that St. Tony received the same blanket 10-plus year whitewash that Hunter Biden received. But while Hunter took foreign kickbacks and violated drug, gun, and tax laws, Fauci was at the helm of a federal agency that bankrolled reckless research in China, which, thanks to a lab leak, resulted in 7 million deaths around the world. Biden granted a, quote, full and unconditional pardon for any offenses against the U.S. which Fauci may have committed, unquote, from January 1st, 2014 forwards, including his work as the chief of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, his roles in White House COVID task forces, and his time as Biden's chief medical advisor. The blanket pardon covers any funding, licit or illicit, that Fauci helped deliver to the Wuhan Institute of Virology or other laboratories that engage in gain-of-function or bioweapons research, which the Obama administration banned in late 2014. Senator Rand Paul commented on the pardon: if there was ever any doubt as to who bears responsibility for the COVID pandemic, Biden's pardon to Fauci forever seals the deal. Biden claimed that the acceptance of his pardons should not be misconstrued as an admission of guilt for any offense. Tell that to the Justice Department, which last month announced that any January 6th defendant who accepts the pardon will be making a confession of guilt. In 1915, the Supreme Court ruled that a pardon carries an imputation of guilt. Acceptance of a pardon is a confession of it. Fauci is continuing his weasel ways by accepting the pardon while pretending he did nothing wrong. Fauci justifies taking the pardon because the possibility of prosecution, quote, creates immeasurable and intolerable distress on me and my family, unquote. Actually, the threat of prosecution carries far less distress for Fauci and the family than the distress suffered by the survivors of the million Americans who died thanks to the reckless research that Fauci bankrolled in China. Fauci was Biden's chief medical advisor and shares blame for the illegal vaccine mandate that the Supreme Court struck down after the wrongful firings of scores of thousands of Americans who refused to get vaxxed. Fauci shares blame for perpetuating the school shutdowns that blighted millions of childhoods, the pointless lockdowns that led to soaring rates of suicide, alcoholism, and drug abuse, and pervasive cover ups of other COVID frauds and follies that continue to this day. Though Biden subverted justice with a preemptive pardon for any crimes Fauci may have committed, his decree could pave a path to truth. Biden's pardon recipients can be forced to testify because they cannot plead the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination because there is no criminal peril. Biden's final burst of pardons epitomizes how he created an impunity democracy in which government officials pay no price for the crimes. Trump administration officials and congressional investigators should speedily open the files to expose Team Biden bureaucratic crime sprees. Though Fauci may be legally untouchable, ex-President Biden cannot prevent damning revelations that could obliterate Fauci's legacy. In December 2020, shortly before he became president, Joe Biden scorned the idea of preemptive pardons because of the kind of precedent it sets and how the rest of the world looks at us as a nation of laws and justice. Has any president in history done more than Joe Biden to destroy America's reputation as a nation of laws? Like the old saying says, no matter how cynical you get, it's not enough to keep up.
For more stories just like these, be sure to subscribe to the New York Post right here on YouTube.